Hello everyone. So in this video, I'm going to go over all the controller sensitivity options, button mappings, and explaining how everything works, like response curves and all that. And there's a lot to talk about, so I'm just gonna get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the most important thing about sensitivity. Is it really doesn't matter what sense you use. At the end of the day, your ability to center and track shots, along with reaction time, is what matters. Copying a sense that a pro player uses, or like just a good player in any game, isn't going to instantly make you a better player. Technically, some senses and setting options are better than others. If you take two players with 100% accuracy, one person uses 10 everything and the other person uses, say, 5, the person on 10 cents wins because they are able to turn around faster, flick faster, and center their shots faster, etc. So while having a higher sense is technically better, if you can't hit your shots on it very well, you're constantly over tracking, flicking, can't control your aim very well, etc. A high sense is not for you, and you need to play on a lower sense, or really you need to find the sensitivity that is most comfortable for you. High senses and being constantly good on a high sense usually requires you to play the game very consistently for many hours, making it harder to always perform good, unlike a lower sense that's easier to track and center people on. At the end of the day, it is up to personal preference and what you like playing on. If you want to be the best you'll ever be, or can be, you're going to have to mess around with your settings for a while, until you really fine tune them and you find what you're personally the best on, and can personally control very well. And sometimes you're going to have to play on a sense. You can't play on a sense, say a 7 sensitivity. Let's say a 7 sense is your usual sensitivity that you run, and then you bump it up to a 10 right off the bat. It's gonna take a lot of time, couple days, maybe even weeks, before you actually really get good on that sense. Just constantly changing your sense willy-nilly is going to make you worse. So when you do change your settings, more often than not, you're going to have to give yourself a couple days at least to really start getting used to the sense, because again, constantly changing your sense is just not going to, it's going to make you worse essentially and inconsistent. So just something to keep in mind when you are messing around with sensitivities and trying to find what works best for you. Alright, so for controller response curves, this is very important. If you don't know how they work, basically think of response curves as input delay. The higher the response curve, the more input delay there is from how long it takes the game to register you have moved your stick. I will show an example by putting my response curve at 5, which is the max in SOT. When I go to look around, it won't automatically move my stick at the speed of the sensitivity I have selected. What it does is it slowly turns my camera, increasing the speed until it maxes out at my sensitivity. So I play a 9 cents, so the game will ramp up my sense from 1 to 9 over a period of time. This is not good because it's just adding increased delay when trying to turn an ADS, making it harder to be consistent. Whereas if I have the lowest, where is it here? If I have the lowest possible response curve, which is 1.0, when I turn my camera, it's going to basically automatically start turning at my sensitivity instead of just slowly building up to it. This is called a linear response curve, and it is the best response curve you can use in any game, because it can be harder to control your aim if you are not used to it, but it is 100% worth it. Swapping to a linear response curve and being worse for a few days or weeks until you get used to it, because you will be a better player on a linear response curve. Some pros in other games use a classic response curve or a little mix between linear and classic, but most good and pro players in any game use a linear response curve, as it gives you way more control over your aim and makes micro adjustments a lot easier. Now for sensitivities, I play on a 9 cents right here, and then all of my weapon ADS settings are at 6.7, except for my sniper. And you might be wondering, why is my sniper on 10? And it's not matching anything else. And honestly, because for some reason on controller, The eye of reach sense does not actually match up the other settings. So a 6.7 eye of reach sense is a lot slower. Like as you can see, this is what the pistol looks like, and then on sniper it is a bit, you know, slower, obviously. Another thing too is, for some reason, whatever your main sensitivity in game is going to dictate how fast and how slow your ADS setting is. So let me put my sniper back up to 10, and then let's take my sense and let's put it on 3.0. When ADSing, you can see my sense very slow. Everything is way slower than it just was. And then if we put it back up to, let's say, 10.0, all of a sudden my sense is, my ADS settings are now way faster. So it's something to keep in mind when changing your main sensitivity right here. This is going to affect how fast and how slow your weapon ADS settings are. So aim assist and SOT is pretty weird, and it's kind of not good, but it really just depends on the setting you have it on. So on higher aim assist values, the aim assist is very strong, and it will overcorrect and undercorrect your shots, making it harder to track and center shots on people. So you kind of just have to let the aim assist do the work for you, which is not good. It will just make you like a worse player. So for my opinion, the best aim assist settings is about, you know, 0.2, maybe 0.3, but I've tried messing with all of these, and I'd say if you're going to play with aim assist on, 0.2 is the best in my personal opinion. Now for FOV, I play on 110 everything except for the cannons right here, and that's just because, I know, 90 cannons are the default cannons. They're, you know, it's a lot easier to hit cannons on 90 than 110 FOV. And then I just have the harpoon on 100 because I just like the way it looks. Now for button mappings, I have a Blitz 2 controller, which lets me keybind M and K buttons to the back of the paddles on the controller. So, you know, if you don't have a controller like that, it's obviously going to be harder to key map buttons on the controller. So my advice for buttons is you can key map the left and right D-pad on your controller for food, you know, bucket, planks. You can swap the RB button if you don't want like the quick chat to be like your jump or your secondary interact. You're just gonna have to mess with it, but like in my opinion, those are some good options you can change. Or your food, if I didn't already mention that. I have my secondary interact on the right joystick, so, you know, that way when I'm fighting people on a boat, I don't accidentally open a storage crate while I'm trying to, you know, double gun. And, you know, because, you know, my thumb's just always on the right joystick and never take it off, so, you know, it's just very easy for me to have it on my secondary interact.